What is going on, guys? It's Yoji. In this video I will go over my league starting build for Heist, which I will start in the ZiggyD private league. There's some information below if you want to play in the same private league, just to have like a tighter knit community and no trade bots, no inflated economy with like bazillions of people and bots, and just like a little bit more reasonable a trade interaction maybe. Yeah. This is the build that I want to play. It's an Ignite Trickster that I will, in the late game, convert to an Archmage Ignite Firestorm Trickster Mana Ignite build, because Fireball will be really strong in this patch. And not only Fireball, the revealed Flame Wall, we now have the gem information, the numbers on that thing are off the charts. So let's have a look at that one first, because that's what we will use mostly for leveling, but also in endgame to buff our single target and overall DPS. So what this does is it deals fire damage, base fire damage per second. That's just like the damage any enemy takes that is in the area, and it has a secondary buff that deals absurd amounts of fire damage per second, which is 1800 base, and any projectile that you shoot through that inherits that fire damage per second on top of any ignites that you might deal, and applies that to an enemy. And if you scale that secondary debuff, it will also get this. Take the scale debuff and put that on an enemy. So you can like pseudo 5-link your flame wall in a helmet, for example, by putting an essence of horror on it for 30% increased elemental, more elemental damage of socketed gems, so you have a pseudo 5-link on that with your flame wall, and then you can shoot a fireball through that with damage links, and it's just going to boom, explode. Plus, also the added fire damage will get scaled by the 240, not 420, 240 damage effectiveness of fireball, which will make this build quite strong for leveling. And once you switch to Archmage, you will also have the huge amount of added lightning damage scaled by your fireball damage effectiveness plus all the other stuff that we have. And the build is going to be a Trickster, as you can maybe already see here, but I have not made the build yet, and normally I don't want to make these before I play them type of guide. So this is not really a guide, this is just me answering the question that I've gotten from a lot of people on what I will be playing. And I think this is a very tried and true build. Fireball is not new, it's been very powerful since the last buff for a few patches, and even before that buff it was very much viable for all content. So I know this will work. I played Fireball in SSF and respec later into a Divine Ire character. I think I played Fireball till like 95 on an Inquisitor, and this build will have way more damage and will be a lot stronger overall, because Archmage did not exist back then. So this is basically a stronger version of a build that I already played, so I feel alright doing this. But I don't like making like full build guides on builds that I've never tried, or on builds that I don't know if they will work in this upcoming patch. How this will work, in the PUB, you will have the path of building that you see here linked below. There are different trees. I have like a normal lab, a cruel lab, a merciless lab, and then like once you swap to at level 8, you can equip the Stormfire Ring, which will allow your lightning damage to ignite as well. And that's when we swap to Archmage. So we don't use Archmage before that. We basically just rely on Fireball's inherent ignite mechanics and the Flame Wall, which should easily carry us through till yellow maps. And then at level 80, we can equip a Stormfire Ring, switch to Archmage. But yeah, the leveling trees will reflect that. So we start out as a Shadow. And early on, the first thing we take is the Patient Reaper, which is just nice increased damage over time and some nice recovery, really good for like leveling and clearing, just like going through the content. And yeah, we'll pick up some life here if we need to, go through the damage, pick up damage over time, life, and then we basically just straight up go through all of this, pick up Aoe Overload, then up here to get some more extra ignite chance, to get together with the combustion spot and the inherent ignite chance of Fireball, get to 100%. Ignite chance, and once we have that, we can like get some mana. We travel through AoE nodes because AoE is always nice, and then we can like fill out maybe like some attack speed to feel a bit better while leveling. And a normal level, as I said, we take Patient Reaper. If you ever get an early anoint, take Arsonist. Green, blue is pretty good. So once you get into mapping, let me get that out of the way. We're gonna anoint that first. So yeah, but now we're at leveling. So leveling is Cruel Lab. In Cruel Lab, after Cruel Lab, or around the time we do Cruel Lab, we go down here, just mainly pick up some more life, and we fill out our ignite chance right here. And with this should allow us to actually drop combustion for better damage supports pretty early on, because we should be at 100% ignite chance just from the gem and what we have right here alone pretty easily. And yeah, just filling out some more life and some more travel along the way. Then in Merc Lab, we start filling out a little bit of mana nodes here as well. I get Deep Thoughts, mainly to get Mind over Matter running, because at this point we would otherwise start feeling a bit squish. By the way, for Cruel Lab we take Prolonged Pain for the more damage over time, some reduced damage over time taken defenses, but it's mainly for the damage over time. Also, Skill Effect Duration will not later be nice for some buffs that we use. Yes, at Merc Lab we do take Weave the Arcane, which will prepare not only our Mind over Matter defenses, but also prepare us for the Archmage swap, because at level 80, once we swap to Archmage, this is level 80 if you take 23 passive points, because we don't help any bandits, which, while leveling, it can be nicer to help Alira, but because we are in softcore, we can get away with not helping Alira and still gearing out pretty easily. So yeah, this is still the same tree. We fill out Dynamo. This is when we start using Arcane Cloak, and I said Archmage as well. We fill out Forethought, which is all damage, like really good damage nodes, because this increases our mana cost, which in turn gives us more added damage from Archmage. We fill out these mana nodes as well, and some like damage over time here. Also some area of effect, just to have that covered. And yeah, some Chaos Res here, because after Merciless Lab and once we start mapping, having a little bit of extra Chaos Res from the tree is a nice thing. And then, yeah, at some point we'll have like, I have an endgame tree here as well. This is like the default endgame tree. It's really nice to have an intuitive leap here, just to like grab some of the staff block nodes and be able to grab these without the travel. Also drop this area damage here. And at later game, I think it's better to annoy Growth and Decay, so we can travel over here more quickly and grab some extra mana nodes, some Arcane Surge on Kill right here, and some mana nodes, get some increased damage, so we can focus more on mana on our gear, and we don't have to invest so much into increased damage flat, because, or like stacking increased damage, because we get so much from this one. And yeah, there's also Whirling Barrier for some nice block. You can opt for 4-point Glancing Blows if you still want to. I'm not sure if it's worth it. And the super final tree with Cluster Jewels actually won't have that, because I think Agnostic, we also pick up Agnostic once we can sustain it around the same level as we swap to Archmage. Or at least we try and see if that. But once we have Dynamo, Battle Rouse, and like all the mana investment should be fine. I think this might be worth taking for a point. 10% increased effect of curses. If you're using a curse, it's probably worth having that, because it's just a 1-pointer, right? With the intuitive leap. And our last node, which is not very important, is Swift Killer, because taking the ES nodes does not make sense, because we are agnostic, so we don't have ES. So we go for this, but this is not a priority, which makes this really nice for a league starter, because we only need 3 points a lot, like very, very urgently, and the 4th point is not important. So yeah, you just respec out of this part once you get enough points and you get going. This is like a level 97 tree, of course. You can cut whatever you feel like this damage maybe. You can cut maybe some block if you don't want that. You can also cut some life if you feel you have too much, because for a Mind over Matter build, 178 life is quite a lot actually. And then the last tree is for like, if you really want to go min-maxing, it's a Cluster Jewel heavy tree. We basically go out of all the block and drop the intuitive leap for damage. This is the highest damage setup. This without any items. Like, we have just like the basic uniques and a +3 staff. This would already deal with level 20 gems, 270k Cirrus DPS, I guess, not Shaper DPS. Yeah, so that's kind of nice. And yeah, this is the Cluster Jewel setup. It's a fire damage Cluster Jewel. Burning Bright I think is really good. Some AoE, some damage stats. Fire exposure on hit from fire skills I think is really good, because we don't have any other way to get exposure as much. We could kind of like cram in a Wave of Conviction if we want to, but yeah, I think this is alright. Blowback, get blowback is like the must have. You want blowback on both of these. Faster damage from ignites. This is like, these two together is 30% more damage basically, or almost. And then there's Burning Bright you can get, or you can get Cooked Alive. Both are great. Cooked Alive is a bit better. but these jewels might get pretty expensive if Ignite is... if Ignite becomes meta, which I can actually see being quite popular. And then Holistic Health on a mana jewel. You can also use it on a life jewel. I think mana is a bit better for damage. I'm a bit greedy here with the damages. And that's kind of it. Yeah, as I said, item-wise, I only put in the items I think are good. You can use a Searing Touch as well, which is a really nice leveling and early mapping and even like late mapping staff for like Ignite and burning damage builds. Cloak of Defiance in endgame at some point will be worth it, which is why the trees at some point don't have Mind over Matter spec anymore. So once you get the cloak, it has Mind over Matter. You save 1 skill point. I think the defenses of this are way outweighing any replica counts hard options or any Shroud of the Lightless bonus effect that you might be getting. But if you want to be more offensive and less defensive, you can like replace the Cloak of Defiance. If you want to, a serious foible, it's really hard to beat. And as I said, early on you anoint Arsonist, which is really cheap and down here. And later on, once you respec out of this part, you anoint Growth and Decay, but that needs a Golden Oil, which is why that is more of a late game option. And then we get Stormfire. You need to get this at level 80. So you can swap to Archmage, because this allows your lightning damage to ignite, which stacks with your fire damage from the fireball itself. You must have this, otherwise the build will fall off if you play it like this. If you play a different scaling, non-mana scaling, you don't need this of course, but in this specific version you will need it. Alright, then I have some leveling gem socket setups saved up here as well. So we have like I want to do it with the staff as I've shown, and have a Aoe Clear setup and a single target setup, because I think while the pinpoint support does have really good stats, like the damage multiplier is great, it's super nice. I don't think for a damage over time build where you kind of want to fire and forget fireballs, it is all that great to like rapidly cast, because we won't really be investing much into cast speed because ignites don't stack, so you don't want to spam fireballs as much. So what we do instead is we go for a twofold setup, which means we have a single target setup, for example, in our staff, and a Aoe Clear setup, for example, in our chest. Probably the other way around, for reasons that I will explain shortly. So yeah, single target setup will be early on, you get Fireball at level 1, you get Combustion, I think at level 8, and Unbound Ailments also at level 1, so you will use Fireball, Combustion, Unbound Ailments for like level 1, Act 1. In Act 2, you will get Deadly Ailments as well, which is a great damage support. Which does need quite a bit of extra dexterity, but should be fine because you're around the shadow starting area, should be able to pick up a little bit of dex that you need. Otherwise, just use a Jade Amulet. And then later on, you can replace, once you get to Siosa, the library quest, you can take burning damage and replace the Unbound Ailments. Then on a 5-link, before we use Stormfire, so up until level 80, you can add Swift Affliction as well for some really nice single target. And then endgame, after the Archmage, swap Fireball, Archmage, Deadly Ailments, Burning Damage, Swift Affliction, and then actually Ignite Proliferation is our highest damage support. On a single target, we don't really need the Prolif, but it is still 39% more damage with Ignite, so this is still our best damage option, which is why it is on here. Seems a bit odd, but it's the best damage gem that there currently is. Maybe with Awakened Gems this will change, I might give you an update. Maybe Awakened Unbound Ailments will be better late game. But for like normal purposes up until level 90 plus, before you really start min-maxing with Awakened Gems, this should be it. And for the Aoe Clear setup, somewhat around level Act 2 to 3, you should have like a second setup with Fireball, lesser multiple projectiles, Combustion, and Alley Proliferation I think is a good choice. Then once the damage starts to fall off a bit, you can start adding another damage gem. The LMP should still be good enough to have a little bit of spread here. Then once you get to level 38 support gems, and maybe even you have a 5-link at some point, but the 4-link would be Fireball, Deadly Ailments, Ignite Prolif for like spread, and this is also more multiply, which is nice, and then GMP for just like spreading out the fireballs, clearing the trash. And then if you have a 5-link, you also add Fork and later Awakened Fork, just to have fireballs spread through all sorts of packs and just like ignite all the trash enemies and kill them. And then in very late game, you can add another support gem for damage, which is Deadly Ailments, because that's the most damage we can get out of any gem other than Archmage. So this will be our clearing setup. And as I said, the clearing setup usually will go on the staff, because at super min-maxed endgame you can corrupt your chest piece for example, +2 to projectile gem levels, while the staff does give global plus to gems, so you want your single target damage setup to gain as many gem levels as possible, because Fireball really scales well with gem levels, not only because it gains damage, like flat damage, but also because it has the more damage with ignites also scales up with gem levels pretty quickly. Yeah, Arcane Cloak, second wind dash, just to have Arcane Cloak later on. You can put like, if you really want to, you can put a Arcane Surge on here, but I don't think it's that much needed. Flame Wall in a helmet with Essence of Aura crafted, as I said, so this is a pseudo 5 link with efficacy. The Scorching Ray is just like a placeholder because PoE doesn't at this point have the gems. Burning Damage, Elemental Focus, Efficacy should be the best damage links, roughly. Try out what's better once the gems are in PoB, but this is a placeholder. And then I have Opus Storms as a placeholder for Sigil of Power. Put Second Wind on there for the cooldown reduction, Empower to scale it a bit further. I definitely want to try this. And Ink AoE to have like just larger area of effect. And then Sigil of Power because it adds increases mana cost of skills, and it increases it adds flat damage per stage, and also makes you take less damage. Oh no, it makes enemies actually deal less damage while they're in this area. So per cast of your Fireball, which should have way more than 600 mana cost, even on the low end with Archmage, you get 1 stage of this, and at 4 stages this maxes out. And since our lightning damage added that we get will be scaled by Fireball and will also ignite, this I think is a really good change, plus the increased cost of mana for skills will also buff Archmage. So I think this might be worth using. Maybe it's not worth linking as much, but I would definitely want to try it on like its highest power level and see how that feels. And then as an aura, you can also run Clarity if you want to. But you can also change the other setups if you like. But I think this is kind of like what I want to run currently at this point. So yeah, links to all the stuff I mentioned are in the description below. Oh, there's one more thing that I actually want to mention and not forget. I have not spec'd Aoe Equilibrium, but you can. If you want to, you can equip spec Aoe Equilibrium, and it will multiply your damage by quite a bit if you go out of your way, not have any added fire damage on any piece of gear, and then you can put a Stormbrand on the enemy. This will hit the enemy for lightning, and then you will, when you ignite them, they will like still get hit for lightning, and then you will give them -50 resistances. But this will hamper your clear as well, and since I think I will mostly farm on like mapping, clearing, I will mostly not spec this, but it's definitely a choice that you can make to go into EE and see how that feels for you, if you like the playstyle, if you like the changes that makes to the build. Yeah, as I said, the cluster tree variant is a bit more offensive, and the block heavier variant without the cluster rules has quite a bit less damage, but it does have it's about like 30% less damage, but it has quite a bit of extra tankiness from the block nodes and some extra mana investment as well. So yeah, those are choices that you have to make. I think the leveling should be pretty smooth with just the setup and the Flame Wall, which has insane numbers as mentioned. So just level with Fireball, Flame Wall with the setups in this PoB, and you should get to maps easily. And I'll make a video around Sunday-ish, showing you where I have gotten. I have actually quite a bit of extra time to play on Saturday. Lots of gaming will be happening. Looking forward to that. Thanks, sponsored by my wife, by the way, who is like, okay, yeah, I'm taking care of the kids and stuff, and you can game, which is 10 out of 10. All right, I think that's enough. Subscribe to this channel if you're new. And yeah, see you on Heist. See you maybe in Ziggy's private league. Thanks to all my patrons for the support, and thank you to everyone who's like new to this channel and recently subscribed. This channel is currently growing like really crazily fast, and it's really awesome to see all these new people, and also all the people who've been like here forever and are still like watching the content, still enjoying PoE alongside all of us. Yeah, it's pretty amazing. So yeah, thank you all for that. I'm Yoji, and I will see you soon.